and welcome to another Sales Expert Insight. My name is John Golden from Pipeliner CRM and SalesPOP Online Sales Magazine, and I'm here in lovely sunny San Diego. But today I'm joined by Michael Licenblat, who is in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. How you doing,
Hello
Michael?
to you there. How you doing there?
Good. And Michael is, let's get this right, Michael is a resilience expert, right? And if there's one thing that you need a lot of in sales, it's resilience, right? He's the author of the book Pressure Proof. So I thought, as we're sort of at the beginning of 2018, it'd be great to talk about maybe some of the things that salespeople can do to build up greater levels of resilience, because let's face it, it's a tough business. It's a lot of rejection. And while everybody in sales knows intellectually that you're going to get a lot of rejection and resilience, to deal with it psychologically, emotionally, and to do something about it can be two different things. So, Michael, tell me a little bit about your approach to resilience, and you talk a lot about in your company is bounce back. So how to bounce back.
Yeah, well, look, we know that any sales area has spent a lot of energy and time and money is spent in sales training, which is very important. Things like opening and closing, finding out needs, that sort of thing. But very little training actually is in the area of handling the rejections. In fact, very few salespeople are trained on how to handle no. And if they're not able to handle no, that feeling of rejection or the challenge they have with their own self-opinion, it impacts their next call. It impacts their next activities. So, and that can compound and compound. And so a person can be intellectually smart with a lot of sales technique, but unable to execute. So what I look at is the gap between knowing what to do and the ability to do that, but particularly in the face of tough markets, lots of competition, self-doubt, and even a track history where things haven't gone according to plan. Because as we know, the sales industry, it isn't just about product knowledge, it's about personality. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, the way in which you turn up affects the success in what you're going to do. So for me, that niche of sales resilience is kind of the missing link. It's the important piece for people to get to take good sales understanding and put it into practice and grow their revenue targets in tough markets.
So it's an interesting point. Talk to me a little bit about, so there's a difference between knowing that rejection is part of the job, right, and expecting it, right? So as you said, turning up almost expecting not to get the sale and self-fulfilling prophecy. So how do you balance the two of knowing that there's a lot of rejection built in and you can't win every sale, but also not falling into the trap of almost expecting not to get it?
So the traditional sales motivation approach, and I'm going back to the 70s and the 80s, those high motivational speakers who are fantastic, love them, talked about the you can do it approach, you're fantastic, and pump yourself up to get excited. And I think there's great value in doing that. You want to turn up with the best version of yourself with every call, every meeting. However, there's a challenge between getting pumped up and excited and then falling flat. That energy drop is quite significant and it's quite draining. Now, what we want to do is not so much turn up with this go, 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 which can then fall flat like a popped balloon. But it's actually okay to say, I actually I anticipate a certain number of my approaches or my calls may end in no. I want to be realistic. As well prepared and as confident as I may be, a number of them are going to end in no. I need to be okay with that. And therefore, I'm not expecting, but I'm allowing for failure. And therefore, I'm allowing for the fact that failure doesn't mean that I'm a stuff up. It just means that that's just part of the game. And I need to recover from that quickly. That it's not a reflection of my personality and my ability. Well, it might be in some cases, but that generally I don't want to associate failure with me being wrong. Right. So I want to go into the game going, yeah, it's going to happen. Be okay with it and fail fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's always a good piece of advice, is failing fast rather than desperately clinging on to something that's already gone. So let's talk a little bit about, okay, so maybe you're on a tough run, right? Maybe 2017 wasn't a great year for you as a salesperson, and now you've started 2018. How do you change your mindset or approach to sort of put 2017 in the rearview mirror and really put yourself in the best position for 2018?
Excellent question. So we want to look at what's ahead of you rather than what's behind you. If you want to create natural motivation, your resilience is going to be driven by the feeling of possibility. One of the ways we bounce back is because we feel it's possible. We have a sense of hope or of destiny. And therefore, you've got to make sure that when you are wanting to set a target, you're not basing your ability based on what has happened, but on what possibly could happen. So your proportion of facing forward compared to facing backward, in other words, looking towards the future of what my goals look like, what the possibilities compared to what has happened, needs to be a higher proportion of forward compared to backward. In fact, I would encourage that the ratio should be at least 80% forward, 20% backward. So it's important to reflect back, to look on how you can improve, however, not at the expense of getting excited and anticipating the future. So that way that it allows you to, when things happen that you don't want or don't expect, you don't go, oh, I knew this would happen, or here we go again, it's the same as last year, that you're delving into past experience to predict future outcome.
Right. And I think that's important, because obviously, you know, a lot of people look as past as prologue, instead of saying, no, past is past, and, you know, the present and the future is what I make it to be. Okay, so you talked a lot about, you know, in new and competitive markets, that's where, you know, resilience is critical, right? And, you know, most markets today are pretty competitive. You know, products are, you know, not as differentiated as they may have been once upon a time. So why is it extra important when you're in a competitive or a new market to have that great level of resilience?
Okay, if you're in a new market, and let's say you even have a new product in the market, which actually doesn't matter. If you're in a new market, your probability of hitting failure is higher. Your probability of facing no is higher. So if you're going to stand any success, we know that in a sales market, most people won't buy from the first contact. In fact, research has found it comes after the fifth or seventh contact that more people are likely to engage in conversation to buy product. Which means if you're already giving up after the first or second call, and one particular study has quoted that about 30 to 40% of salespeople give up after the second no or rejection, then you're leaving a lot of business opportunity on the table. We need to understand that people don't buy initially for a number of reasons, and it doesn't have to be about you. And the moment we personalize, oh, me, I didn't do a good job, or they said no, so I got to stop. We need to understand what sits behind no. And therefore, to be able to bounce back means to how to explore no and accept that you're not going to get the yes the first time through. That's just the natural part of sales. And to have the structure in your mind as to how you're going to explore no and what you're going to do as your next step.
Yeah, I love that piece about, you know, because, yeah, a lot of people will take no as meaning, well, the sale's over. And I mean, no, it's whatever you said or asked for, whatever, it wasn't the right time for it, or you didn't ask the right question, you didn't ask for the right thing. And you got to explore how to go forward. You know, I really like that piece. So how do you then... if you're falling into that trap a little bit of taking no too quickly, what are some of the things that, you know, a salesperson can do to become a little bit more resilient and to stick at it?
So the philosophy of fail forward looks at the concept of how do I take something which didn't have the outcome that I want, make a tweak so I can then get back into activity quickly. The process of resilience, particularly with my business of bounce back fast, is speed of recovery. I want to spend as least time down, flat, or avoiding or procrastinating as much as possible. And the more I take things to heart, the more I overanalyze is time away from my sales activity, from my approaches. And often that happens when I start to doubt my ability, or I feel a sense of apprehension and I'm fearing the rejection, so I'm avoiding the contact. So I need to be able to recover quickly. So the fail fast says, what is it in my approach that I could tweak or improve, because I know some won't go through, but what can I improve that allows me to get a better conversion rate? And I look at three factors. Is it me? and let's be honest, is it me? Did my energy turn up wrong? Was my mind somewhere else? Is it my preparation? Did I not know the client as well as I could have? Did I really not understand them? Is it actually them that they weren't ready to buy? Or in the terms of my approach, did I not really explore needs properly? And I want to understand what aspect could I tweak so that I can recover faster and be more successful. So resilience is one of the keys in resilience. And I know we spoke about this just before the call. It's not about taking 3 deep breaths and going to a nice place in your mind. That's lovely. But when you're dealing with sales and you want to recover quickly, I want to know, what can I tweak that's going to increase my success next time, and be okay with a bit of feedback. Feedback allows you to have progress. One of the challenges we have in sales is that there's a lot of ego. And with ego, we can't take feedback. We can't be wrong. If we've got a lot of experience in the room, if you're amongst other salespeople, or if you're dealing with people who are perhaps older or more experienced than you, and you're a new player in the game in a new field, you're dealing with ego. And therefore, the feeling of, I don't want to look stupid, I don't want to look wrong, and will prevent you from improving and taking things on. So I think, what is it in me that I can fix? What is it in my approach that I could fix? What is it maybe with them that didn't allow this process to go forward? And how can I adapt myself to maybe connect with them in a more effective way? And that allows you to be lighter. One of the challenges we have is that there's a lot of invested energy that goes into the outcome. And it's important to be motivated and to chase targets. However, we don't want a smell of desperation.
Right.
We don't want to stink of desperation, because when we turn up, people can smell that on you. I don't mean literally, but you can get a feeling when someone wants the sale and they're very needy in their drive yet, pardon me, they're actually focused more on themselves than they are you. Therefore, when that doesn't go ahead well, if you turn up highly needy and it falls flat, you fall hard. And therefore, that recovery, that speedy recovery, takes slower. So I really believe you want to know your process, turn up with energy, understand your client, but be light, play light. Kind of like you do when you were kids, and you'd play in the playground. You might play, whatever game you play, and if you lose, okay, you complain, but you get back into it. You play again.
Yeah.
You're not playing for houses. You're just playing for the next spot on the court. And I think we need to understand that we need to play light so that we don't turn up stinking of desperation.
So some of the things you said there, and I think that's fantastic advice. So some of the things you've said there really point to your preparation being one. I mean, that's something that's within your control, so you can prepare yourself and you can, understand the client and prepare yourself very well. And the second thing, as you said, is you can ensure that you turn up with energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can, because let's face it, it's not always easy. And maybe if it's a big client, maybe you're nervous, maybe as I said, maybe things haven't gone well recently, and you walk through the door of the building, or you pick up the phone, or you go to the online meeting, whatever medium you're using, and you start to feel the energy drain out of you. What can you do at that moment to get yourself back in the game?
So what you've just described is the classic nerves. Now, nerves tend to happen when we focus on ourselves. Am I okay? Am I going to be good enough? And the moment we put the focus on me or ourselves, then the pressure of getting things right goes higher. Therefore, when things don't go right, the failure hits harder when we fall down, and it's a slower recovery. So I would say it's not about you. It's all about you, but it's not about you. I'll clarify. How you turn up makes it all about you. You've got to turn up the best version of you. And I'll veto that, saying, I don't need you turning up high-fiving the whole room and bouncing off the wall. I get the value in being full of energy, but we want realness in people. We want to connect with people who have got their feet on the ground, who can just talk to us like a regular person and not be too hyped. So we want you to turn up real, which means just relax. Don't try to overthink the process. But we also want you to understand that it's not about you, that you need to put your energy off you and put it onto the other person. The moment I'm walking in to a sales meeting, I'm thinking about me and what I have to say, I'm in the wrong headspace. And therefore my rejection is going to hurt more. I need to make sure I turn up thinking, how can I be of service to these people I'm walking into now? If I can be of service here and I can understand what their challenge is and I can solve a problem, happy days. If I can't, let's call it a day, and that's fine. And I don't hit the ground from the rejection as hard. And I spring back much better because I'm understanding that I'm turning up with energy, with the best version of me. I'm not trying to be something I'm not, but I'm putting the focus off me and I'm putting it on you. And that allows me to be calmer and a lot more resilient in the process when things don't go according to plan.
And I guess that also works well because you can do all of those things and you can you get yourself in the right headspace and you can start the meeting and everything's great. And then, you know, the first dreaded obstacle or objection is thrown up. And it's very easy to suddenly then revert back and be like, oh, no, just, I was hoping they wouldn't ask that. And then you get focused on yourself again and you get all, you know, uptight and maybe start to, you know, ramble a little bit. So does that advice as well work for that moment? You have to catch yourself and realize that, okay, this is an objection or they've raised something, but this is an opportunity to explore their issues more, right?
Yeah, and a lot of us, I'll rephrase it, a lot of people when we go into a sales meeting or a sales call, we want to get it right. And therefore we want to feel, how do I get this perfect? If I pitch it right, we shouldn't have any objections. An objection means that something is wrong. An objection is just a question.
Yeah.
It's a question that needs to be clarified. It's a question about a concern. But basically, every objection shows engagement and interest on some level. The bigger concern is if you don't get any objections, you get blank faces, you don't know where a person's at. Objection is good because it means that they're actually listening and they're engaged, and you have an opportunity to explore what sits behind the objection. So the moment they're doing that, you go thinking to your mind, great, we have a conversation. We've got a game on our hands now. We have a conversation that we can engage into. And then your job is to, again, get off yourself and get onto your thinking onto the other person going, all right, let's see what sits behind the objection. And without desperation, explore, find out what is it that you're either not comfortable with or concerned about or want to know more about. And quite frankly, if I was in your shoes, I'd probably want to ask the same question. I would think to myself. And the moment you turn up with that mindset, you relax. You see, I reckon, and this is taken from a colleague of mine, Hugh Guyton, who's written the book, that selling is just a conversation. And the moment we rock up and just have a conversation, I take the pressure off, and your ability to bounce back and convert increases.
Fantastic. Well, we're bumping up against the end of our time here, but that's a great way to end the conversation by telling salespeople just to have a conversation. I love it. So, Michael Licenblat, so in the last couple of moments, can you just tell our viewers and listeners a little bit more about you, how they can contact you, find out more about you and the services you offer?
Certainly. Look, the best place to go is the website, which is bouncebackfast.com. There you'll find a multitude of resources, but what I really encourage you to do is there's a white paper that I've written, which is all about pressure-proof people, the way in which you bounce back fast from setbacks and rejection. Just download that. It's a free download. And if the concepts there resonate with you, we're happy to have a conversation. There are a bunch of ways that I work with people. Some people, I'm based here in Melbourne, Australia. Many people that I work with, they tap into the online resource center, which is pretty much a series of short video tutorials on how you grow your client base in tough and competitive markets that you can watch at your own will. And I would direct you that way. For some people, it's some one-to-one coaching, or John, like yourself, I do speaking and training as well. But that's the next conversation. If the content resonates, very happy to have that conversation. Bouncebackfast.com, download the resource, and if it resonates, let's have a conversation.
Great. Well, thanks again, Michael. It's been great, and I highly recommend that people check out his white paper. And if you're ever lucky enough to be in Australia, I highly recommend Melbourne. Beautiful city, beautiful part of the world. All right.
It is lovely.
Thanks very much for today, and I'll see you all again soon.
Fantastic. Great chatting with you.